There is an old saying that shows up in almost every culture on Earth, worded a little differently every time, but always saying the same thing. In English it goes Shirtsleeves to Shirtsleeves in 3 generations. In Chinese business circles they say wealth never survives 3 generations. The Italians say from stalls to stars to stalls. Different languages, same warning, repeated for centuries. And the data backs it up almost exactly. Roughly 70% of wealthy families lose their fortune by the 2nd generation. By the 3rd, it is closer to 90%. Think about that for a second. 9 out of 10 family fortunes are gone within about 60 years, even though the 1st generation did everything right to build it in the first place. So today we are not talking about how to get rich. We are talking about something a lot more interesting. Why almost nobody manages to stay rich, and what the rare families who actually pull it off are doing differently. Let's start with Generation 1, because this is where the fortune actually gets built, and it is almost never built the way people imagine. The person who builds the wealth usually grew up without much of it. They know exactly what it costs to lose everything, because they have already lived close to that edge. Every dollar has a memory attached to it. Every decision gets run through a filter of scarcity, and that filter, uncomfortable as it is, turns out to be one of the most powerful wealth-building tools that exists. It makes people cautious, resourceful, and relentless in a way that is almost impossible to fake or teach. Then comes Generation 2. And this is where things quietly start to shift. The children of that founder grew up watching money work. They saw the sacrifice. They may even remember the lean years, but they did not have to live inside that scarcity themselves the same way their parents did. They inherit not just the money, but a completely different relationship with risk. Comfort becomes the default setting instead of the exception. Many second-generation heirs still work hard and still respect the fortune. But the psychological wiring that built it in the first place has already started to fade. 1 generation removed from the actual struggle. By Generation 3, the disconnect is almost complete. These are people who never saw the sacrifice at all. Money was never a question, it was simply the water they grew up swimming in. Without deliberate, structured effort from the family to preserve the mindset alongside the money, this generation frequently treats wealth as an entitlement instead of a responsibility. And that mental shift, more than any market crash or bad investment, is usually what actually kills a family fortune. This is the real insight behind the entire pattern, and it is worth sitting with for a moment. Family wealth is not destroyed primarily by bad markets, or bad luck, or even bad investments, although those certainly play a role. It is destroyed by the quiet erosion of the habits and the mindset that built it in the first place. The money can survive a recession. It rarely survives a generation that never learned to respect it. So what actually separates the small number of families who break this cycle from the 90% who do not? Every family that has genuinely preserved wealth across multiple generations, whether we are talking about old European banking families, major American industrial dynasties, or newer self-made fortunes trying to build something that lasts, tends to share a few specific habits. The first is deliberate financial education, started early and taken seriously. Wealthy families that last do not assume the next generation will simply absorb money skills by osmosis. They teach investing. They teach the value of work. And critically, they teach how to actually lose money safely while the stakes are still small, usually well before adulthood, so the lessons land before the real money is ever on the line. The second habit is structure around the money itself. This is where tools like trusts, family constitutions, and formal family governance systems come in. These are not just tax strategies, even though people often assume that is the whole point. They are guardrails. They create friction between an impulsive decision and the family's capital, and that friction alone prevents an enormous amount of the fortune, destroying decisions that would otherwise happen. The third habit is treating the fortune as a shared responsibility instead of a personal inheritance. Families that succeed across generations tend to hold regular meetings about the family's wealth, sometimes formally, sometimes just around a dinner table. They talk about where the money came from, what it took to build it, and what the family's actual values around money are supposed to be. That conversation, repeated across decades, is what keeps the psychological thread connected to the founder's original mindset, even generations after that founder is gone. And the fourth habit, maybe the most overlooked one, is intentionally exposing later generations to real work and real consequences. The families who successfully preserve wealth do not shield their children from struggle entirely. They engineer smaller, safer versions of it on purpose. A summer job that has nothing to do with the family business. A small business venture allowed to actually fail while the person is still young enough for it to be a lesson instead of a catastrophe. Difficulty, it turns out, is not the enemy of generational wealth. The complete absence of difficulty is. Here is the piece that ties this whole pattern together. Wealth, at its core, is not really a number sitting in a bank account. It is a set of behaviors, repeated consistently enough, for long enough, that they eventually produce a number. The founder builds those behaviors out of necessity, because there was no other option. Every generation after that has to choose to keep them on purpose, because the necessity is gone. And choosing discipline when you no longer have to is a fundamentally different and much harder task than building it out of survival in the first place. That is the real reason 90% of family fortunes do not survive 3 generations. It was never really about the money at all. It was always about whether the mindset that built it could survive the comfort that money creates. If this changed how you think about what real generational wealth actually requires, that is exactly the kind of thinking this channel exists for. Subscribe for more breakdowns on wealth psychology, elite financial strategy, and the systems the wealthy actually use to build something that lasts. Where power needs no introduction, this is Potencia.